We've got a packed show today. Joining me will be soccer analyst Jordan Wilson, here to break down Jonathan David's move to Juventus and, of course, the Gold Cup final. And sadly, we do take a moment to honor the life of Diogo Jota and his brother, Andre Silva. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Just Soccer right here at CBC Sports. Andi Petrillo with you. That's my guy right over there, former CPL player, one soccer analyst, Jordan Wilson, joining me. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Charles?
I'm fantastic. Listen, I know we've been waiting for this for a very long time when it comes to Jonathan David. He has finally made his move. He has signed with Juventus. I've said this before. I'm going to try and not take it personally that he didn't sign with Napoli. That was the first rumored team. It's okay. It's okay. He is in Italy. He went there right after Canada was eliminated from the Gold Cup. What do you think about this move for the Canadian?
It's perfect. Like I did a backflip. I won't tell you how I landed. It wasn't great, probably a 6 out of 10. But the enthusiasm was there. This is a perfect marriage for the kid. We love the Iceman. He's the most influential player for the Canadian men's national team. And I just think he waited and kind of just wanted that perfect move, and he got it in the end. Juve, the way that they'll use him, the way that he'll be a number one. Of course, it's still early in the transfer window. They might pick up another signing. I think it would be great for the team. But regardless, you could see that they slotted and picked him perfectly. So I think he'll thrive there. I'm just excited that a Canadian player, guy from Ottawa, is going to play in Torino.
Mhm.
Like, this is just surreal. It's a big moment.
So Juve hasn't won a league title since 2020. Is he the piece that gets them back on that path?
I think so. I think it's a step in the right direction. You look at Serie A, I always said this is a league that is like very defensive minded. Like teams play a certain way, they're very methodical. It's not so physical as other leagues. I think for me, it's just about being in the right place at the right time. But you look at the stats. Napoli, you're a Napoli, I'll even say it, scored 59 goals, and Juve scored 58 for the season. I'll also say that Juve only lost four, so they need a difference maker. They tied 16 this campaign. So they need someone to be a difference maker in front of goal. He'll play different spots. He won't always play at the number nine. He'll probably play underneath or on the wing. And his versatility will come in handy. But I just think if they could score more goals, be a bit more productive, then they could be champions once again. Which I don't really want to say while I look at you because I know you're like Napoli. It's Napoli all the way. But Juve could do
I'm just
it.
saying.
They could do
I
it.
mean,
I think they could win.
Napoli, but now that Jonathan Davis with Juve, I'll have one eye on that club. And
Yeah.
here's a little bit, little bit, little bit. And I think a lot of Canadians are going to have an eye on that club, just like a lot of Canadians started to keep an eye on Bayern Munich when Alphonso Davies made that move and what he's been able to accomplish with that club and winning titles and Champions League. Do you think Jonathan David has the ability to reach that status now as well of that Canadian playing with a big club and winning trophies? Like, I mean, dare I say, is this the biggest move for a Canadian, or do you still think it's Alphonso Davies going to Bayern?
This is 1B. 1A is still Davies at the time that he went, but this
Mm.
is still a big move. And I love that it's kind of split. Like the public is speaking, who cares what we say? The public is saying this is the biggest one just because of expectation and how he's been playing. Simply, when you play this game, when you play with better players, you become a better player. And that's what's going to happen with Jonathan David. Staying healthy, making sure that he's in the moment. We touched on already about how humble he is. But if he can just put his head down, look, I'm thinking about 2 years from now. I'm thinking about the World Cup next summer. Having him playing in Serie A, just watch out, world, because he's a dangerous, dangerous footballer. And I think he's in the perfect situation right now.
All right, we know he gets things done with the Canadian national team. They have their sights set on bringing a trophy home. Jordan, we know this, right? I feel
Mm.
like I'm just repeating myself. Last time, 2000 Gold Cup. They were favorites heading into this one. They do get knocked out in the quarterfinal stage. It was USA Mexico in the final. Mexico victorious over US 2-1. But let's maybe focus a little bit on the Americans because they too had a coaching change. They too were missing some top players in this tournament, but they make it to the final. Obviously, I know Americans, they expect more from their team. They're very disappointed today. But, what did you just make of their run to still be able to make the final, given a lot of what they were facing?
I know a lot of people will say, okay, this is the American team, and you just said it, that didn't have their best players or their strongest lineup. They always find a way to maybe go to that last part of the tournament, a semifinal or final. But I think it's clear to me what stuck out is the team that I said that was favorites to win this tournament actually won in Mexico. The U.S. aren't the kings of CONCACAF any longer. Also, I'll say I don't think teams fear them. The Panamas, even Canada, if they got to play them. Mexico obviously just dealt with them this weekend. I look at Mexico and the way that they've played their football, and I think about the U.S. The U.S. aren't as strong as they are. They aren't as cohesive, and that is just not my opinion. Those are facts. That's the Nation League winners now a few months ago, and that's also the Gold Cup winners in Mexico that just took care of business and handled it. So I think it's similar to Canada with the U.S. going into hosting a World Cup next summer. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with who Pochettino can trust, who's going to be his best 11, what type of football they're going to play. There's a lot of turmoil, it seems, right now in the U.S. Not as much here in Canada, but a team that has always had good players, but for me, don't just look like a good unit right now.
Let's focus on Canada now, right? Because we've had a little over a week to digest them going out to Guatemala, who had never advanced that far before in a Gold Cup either. And obviously, there's a lot of expectation despite some players missing, because A, it's a deep squad, Jordan, for Canada. But B, when you look at CONCACAF, they went the furthest at Copa America last year, right? And a lot of people have faith in Jesse Marsch, and there's a lot to like. But of course, they crashed out of this, and I don't know if there's one thing, two things that you look at that just went like, how did things go so wrong for Canada?
Yeah, the loss to Guatemala for me in my history following this team and just years before has to be the most disappointing one just because of the expectations that were placed on this team. Not by the media, but by themselves. Them saying that they're going to go out, this is their tournament to win. So when you start throwing that out there, you're at least thinking, okay, final game, and if you lose, you accept it because maybe you lose to a better team. But a crash out to a country of 18 million people that you're expected to win. People said this was a must win, it was an easy win, and you lose in penalties on 1-1. I mean, that's very disappointing. They have a lot of work to do in this next year. And I just feel like if you say you're going to win, you should at least lose in a final. To just lose in a quarterfinal is very disheartening.
Well, and so a lot of attention obviously going to be given here to Jesse Marsch because, we know he missed the first two games of that group stage because he was serving a suspension. Then CONCACAF announced that they were investigating him for something else, was not found guilty, did not face further discipline. He, speaking of that Curacao game, mentioned he wasn't happy with some of the substitutions Mauro Biello made. Then when he does return, Jordo, and especially in that game against Guatemala,
Mm.
substitutions seem to be the big talking point. Are you getting the sense? And I wouldn't say the fans have turned. A lot of fans still love Jesse Marsch, and not
Yeah.
that it really matters. It's how the federation feels about him. It's how the players feel about him. But are you getting the sense that people just kind of want him to settle down a little bit and just focus more on the pitch instead of a lot of the periphery kind of chatter that he likes
Yeah,
to get involved in?
no, absolutely. The honeymoon is over. People were arguing about that before the tournament. Is it still a honeymoon stage? The honeymoon is absolutely over. We've had our first fight, and now we're trying to figure out how we can move forward as a unit. That's what it is. Jesse Marsch just needs to focus on the humble part of the game, the humility part, and getting the team to work. Because a year goes by fast. And like
Mm.
going into this World Cup, which is the penultimate, like you're looking at this moment saying this team with all this potential co-hosting a World Cup. You just want to see them on the same page. You don't want to see coaches getting fined. You don't want to see stuff in the media. You just want everyone pushing and rowing in the right direction. So I think yes, he's taken his first bit of ridicule, but a person like Jesse Marsch is not. He's not looking at the situation and running from it. Like he's used to that. But I just think that loss to Guatemala has to get everyone on the same page and just be like, let's work hard, let's focus on our football
Mhm.
and stop the outside noise.
They do have some friendlies coming up. I think what also makes it disappointing, right, is that was really their only big tournament, like chance to win a
Yeah.
trophy as they're preparing for the World Cup. But they do have some friendlies coming up in the fall. Just how crucial are these friendlies now? Like you can't treat them as friendlies, I'm guessing.
No, you can't. I mean, I think the biggest thing that needs to be figured out, which we are hoping Gold Cup would do that, is about selection. I know a lot can happen in a year. Players get injured, players increase, like they improve, their stock increases. There's so many things that could happen, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of fans and people that love this team are scratching their head with who should Jesse Marsch trust? And you can kind of get a feel for most teams going into World Cup what their team will be like, what the makeup will be like, and we don't really know that for Canada. Who's starting up top? Who's going to play in the midfield? You kind of know your center back situation with Moise Bombito and Derek Cornelius if they're healthy, but outside of that, there's still some question marks that we were hoping to have some answers to. So I think those games are the time to really bet on players, not really experiment, but just trust that they can do the job. And then knowing that when you go into the summer, June and July, you feel good about your 23-man roster.
Quickly, I do want to touch on some Club World Cup news. So semifinals, you have Madrid versus PSG, Chelsea versus Fluminense. Who are you liking to win this all?
Fluminense. You want to know
Fluminense.
why?
Oh,
I shouldn't say a little. They're a big club in Brazil, but in terms of the PSGs, the Chelseas, you're looking at this club who has a 40-year-old center back in Thiago Silva and a keeper that was born, I'm not going to say old, dare I say that, was born 1980.
stop yourself.
So seasoned, vintage, whatever word you want to throw in there. But I just love that this team doesn't have the payroll. They are the underdogs and they're embracing it. They're in a semifinal. I personally don't love this tournament. I think players should get a break. But if you're going to do this, you want a dark horse. You want someone that is the underdog to have a Cinderella story. So Fluminense out of the way.
Before we close the show, we want to take a moment to honor Diogo Jota and his brother, Andre Silva, who tragically lost their lives in a car accident. For those who knew Jota or simply watched him play, he was a warrior on the pitch. He showed up in big moments, fought for every ball, and never took a shift off. But off the field, he was so much more, a kind, humble soul who brought joy to everyone around him. Our hearts are with their family, their loved ones, and the entire football community. Their presence will be deeply missed, but never forgotten.